Welcome back to On the Move with Victor Shi. This is Victor Shi. It is Friday, March 17th, and we made it to the end of the week. Thank goodness. Hope all of you had a great week. Today, we're going to do a Ask Me Anything series. Unfortunately, our guest who we did have on for today can't make it anymore. So I'm going to do a quick round of the news of the day, and then we'll get into some of your questions. So if you have any questions, be sure to drop them in the comment section on YouTube. We have some submitted questions that we have for you. So we will get that up to you after I do the news of the day. But here are some of the news of the day. So first, yesterday we got some really good news. Yesterday, I think we got some amazing news regarding several fronts. But first is Sanofi just announced that it's capping the price of insulin at $35. Now, you may have remembered previous companies already did so. So now this means that Sanofi is the third largest insulin provider that will have capped the price of insulin to $35. As we all may have remembered, this was something that the Inflation Reduction Act required. So this is all President Biden and Democrats doing. As we remember, every single Republican in both the House and the Senate voted against the bill that would have allowed this to happen, the Inflation Reduction Act. So this is really good news. This is going to help a lot of people. And now, according to estimates, more than 90% of insulin providers, so Sanofi and the two other largest providers, they cover 90% of insulin providers. So it's going to cover a lot of people. A lot of people are going to find relief in this, and this is going to help, I think, a tremendous number of people across the country. So some good news on that end. And I know that right now, a bunch of Republicans are trying to take credit for this. We saw this within Infrastructure Act, where basically the majority of Republicans voted against that bill. They went back to their districts. They sold it to their voters, said, look at our legislation, when in reality, they did nothing to help advance it. And we have to make sure that we don't allow Republicans to take credit of this legislation, because it truly is all because of President Biden and Democrats' leadership. And I think we should be grateful for President Biden for doing this. It's a really amazing piece of legislation. Insulin prices, I can't believe we're living in a world where, before this time, insulin prices were sky high. And now we're seeing them capped at just $35 for those who need it. So it's great news, and I think all of us should be grateful for President Biden and Democrats and what they were able to do to get the Inflation Reduction Act, which also includes other things like investing in climate change and other really good components for our country that Republicans had no stake at all in passing. So thank you, President Biden and Democrats, if you are listening. Second is some good news regarding Fox News. So I know we've been talking about Fox News a lot on this show, and we've had some great guests who have explained just how kind of the propaganda machine works. But yesterday, there was a new poll released by Variety that shows 21% of Fox viewers have less trust in the network, and 13% of Fox viewers no longer believe the election was stolen after they read the text messages between Tucker Carlson, Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, and other people at the network. So it's some pretty good news, I think. And there were some other really interesting snippets. So basically, they pulled people right after this Dominion lawsuit, and what you see is just remarkable. I mean, there's some other interesting news, which is that those. Obviously, it's not where we want it to be, but 13% of Fox viewers above the age of 18 now don't believe that the election was stolen. Those under the age of 18, it's 10%. So there's some interesting snippets here. And in terms of just the trust and the accuracy, I mean, so 23% say that they trust it less. 13% they say they continue not to trust it. 11% say they have no opinion, and then 53% say that they continue to trust Fox News. So that 53% still a majority, but we're starting to get better. And then there was one last thing that they asked people, which is their change in opinion for Fox News primetime hosts. 39% says remains unfavorable. 33% says I have no opinion. 19% remain favorable. 9% remain less favorable for those under the age of 18. And then above the age of 18, it's 16% who remain unfavorable. So it's some interesting snippets, I think. And for all of us, I think, who are keeping on, pounding the news on Fox News, I think we have to keep on doing it, calling them out for what they did, saying that they intentionally lied to their voters. This was a network that knew that it was lying to their voters, that what they were saying ran against what the facts were. And they basically fed their audience a bunch of BS. And so I think it's up to all of us to continue pounding that drum and telling Fox viewers that, these anchors do not care about you. They don't care about facts. They don't care about about democracy, and I think some people are starting to realize it. So now you have 13% of people no longer believing the election was stolen. That's good news. You have more than 20% thinking that it's they have less trust in the network. And so now the question is, and hopefully we can have on Asha Rangappa on this show, and I'll definitely reach out to her. But she has a great piece out, which is about what do Fox viewers do when they no longer trust the network? And it's unlike MSNBC and CNN viewers, where if they don't trust the network, they might move to a more moderate place. They might move to something like ABC or CBS or NBC, more broadly. People who don't trust Fox News anymore, they move to more extreme outlets like OANN, like Breitbart. Like those are the networks that they move to. So now the question is, if they have less trust in Fox News, and if they have if 13% no longer believe the election was stolen, will they move to more moderate sources? Will they become less ingrained in that right-wing bubble? That's the big question, and I think that's what I'm going to be paying attention to. Well, whether or not they move to Newsmax, Breitbart, OANN, or whether or not they move a little bit closer to the center, and maybe they even start watching MSNBC or CNN or other cable or other news outlets. So we'll see whether or not that happens. But I think it's just as of right now on the surface, those numbers do give me some optimism, and I think all of us, thank you Dominion, thank you Smartmatic, which is also going to be filing a defamation lawsuit for even more money than Dominion. So I think Dominion and Smartmatic are the real heroes of our democracy right now. They're really exposing Fox News for the grifters, for the liars that they are. And I think all of us should continue having those conversations with our Fox friends, saying, what you're being told is a lie. This is we have hard evidence to show that what Tucker, Laura, Sean did, they ran against your interests. Rupert Murdoch knew that what they were saying were a lie, but he still let it air. So this is just a network that is devoid of any sort of fact making at all. So let's keep our eyes on that. But at least yesterday, that really brought my attention or caught my attention, and I think should catch everyone else's attention. Is maybe there is some hope at the end of the tunnel, a light at the end of the tunnel. A couple of other things before I get to your questions. First is Jack Smith. Now, there were some really interesting developments yesterday. So first, he focused in on a phone call between Trump and his attorney that appears to nail him for obstruction of justice. He also subpoenaed at least 24 people in the Mar-a-Lago documents probe. And yesterday, I thought Andrew Goodman from NYU, who runs Just Security, said it really amazingly, which is that those subpoenas that he filed, those 24 subpoenas regarding the Mar-a-Lago investigation, basically gives him an insider's view, basically an eyes and ears into Mar-a-Lago in Trump's classified documents case. And then he also noted that it gives basically Jack Smith a vivid picture of any sort of crimes that Trump may have committed, because those subpoenas basically offer some sort of like wide angle lens. I mean, it's basically every single person who could have kind of been at Mar-a-Lago, the insiders, they were subpoenaed. And while for other people they may have been quote invisible, these are the people who Jack Smith is narrowing in on. He believes that those people will help him build a stronger case. And so I believe in Jack Smith. I believe in what he's doing. And, it seems like he's really ramping up the investigation, as he should be. And, you can't help but think about today is 800 days since January 6th. If, Jack Smith would have been appointed 3 months, 6 months, a few months earlier, would we be seeing indictments? My estimation is it seems like yes. I mean, he's moving at a breakneck speed right now. He's indicting the people who really need to be indicted, or not indicted, but subpoenaing the people who really need to be subpoenaed. And so my guess is that if, Merrick Garland had, appointed Jack Smith earlier, we may have already seen indictments against Trump and those who have played a really substantial role on January 6th. But as a result, and Lawrence Tribe noted this yesterday, it's 800 days since January 6th. Not one person who planned or who incited that riot has yet to be charged. Trump is still giving campaign rallies. He's still on his Truth social media platform this morning. YouTube now is allowing him to go back on the platform because they think that he isn't as big as a threat. It really, it begs the question, Merrick Garland, I think that, history will judge him for what he did with this Trump investigation. And, he was definitely delayed in this, justice delayed is justice denied. And so I think right now, Jack Smith is doing everything he should be, but it's still, it's a little bit late. He wasn't appointed until mid-November. And that's frankly for any of our liking, I think too late. But hopefully Jack Smith will be coming around with some indictments very soon. But it also seems like the indictments will be coming from maybe Georgia or the New York Manhattan DA's office. We're seeing some incredible news out of there with now Stormy Daniels and Michael Cohen testifying. And it seems like, the other day, Barbara McQuaid was on TV basically saying that we should be optimistic that maybe an indictment might come as soon as next week. So there's some, well, I know all of us are biting our nails. And so we will be paying attention to that because accountability is hopefully finally coming for Donald Trump. Let's get into your questions. We got some great questions from all across the country. The first is related to Fox News. So, from Tina in Miami, Florida, Fox is facing lawsuits and CNN is losing massive ratings. Is mainstream media dead? What would it take to restore trust in them? Should we just listen to independent broadcasters, aka me? First of all, that's very kind, Tina, and thank you for your question. I think it's a really interesting question. And I was actually on a panel yesterday with this organization called Field Team 6, and we were talking about this kind of information landscape. And I think we were once living in an era where cable news outlets really kind of spoke to the majority of the American people. You think of even the Watergate era. Now, this is something that I talk about with Jill Wine-Banks quite a lot, but you think about the Watergate era and watching TV back then, watching those three networks was basically something that every family did. You couldn't escape the TV. You couldn't escape those, CBS, ABC, those outlets that were available at the time. But as information, I think, started, picking up, as we started, getting more mediums, as social media increased, I think cable news is just losing its air. I mean, if you think about who watches cable news, it's not people who look like me. It's not 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, frankly, anyone under the age of 35. The majority of people who watch cable news these days are those above the age of 60. I think I forgot where I saw the stat, but for CNN, I mean, when you look at their demographics, more than 60% of people are over the age of 60. I mean, you barely have anyone who's my age who is watching MSNBC, CNN, Fox for that matters. And so I think, with this lawsuit, what you're going to see with Fox is hopefully we're going to get fewer Republicans who watch that network. But in terms of CNN and MSNBC, I don't know if they're losing ratings, but their audience isn't what they want it to be if they want it to be a sustainable thing, because younger people aren't watching it. How do you get younger people to watch the network? That's going to be really key, I think. And so I think that's a question that's facing a lot of these networks, and I think it's why they're trying to shake things up a little bit. I'm really glad that MSNBC or NBC is now bringing on Jen Psaki as a new host. She won't be hosting on MSNBC, though. She'll be hosting on their streaming platform called Peacock. And so Peacock is a new kind of way to reach people. It's a streaming platform, and it's kind of those unconventional digital streaming platforms that might be the way to reach more people. But that conventional TV that you have on with cable news in the background, I don't think that reaches many young people anymore. So I think part of it maybe, like you said, is because of trust. But I think another part of it is just it's an outdated form of communication. We're all on our phones. We all have something right in front of us, and it's hard to kind of it's hard to kind of, tune into MSNBC. But, if you give people like YouTube, or if you do YouTube live shows, or if you put something on Instagram or TikTok or maybe even Peacock, we'll see whether or not that works. It's much more accessible. It's much more kind of immediate. And I think young people, it's easier for young people to come across that. So we'll see whether or not we get more people to tune in. But just in terms of cable news outlets, I think it'll take a lot to just, for Fox, whether or not they want to restore trust. I think they have to fire, Rupert Murdoch, Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham. Otherwise, I don't know what will get them to actually say the facts. They aren't reporting on the Dominion lawsuit. They aren't reporting on the Smartmatic lawsuit. Their viewers really don't know. So it kind of takes a lot for those viewers to find out, but it seems like it's working. But in terms of news media, I think hopefully we can get more people to tune into shows like this one. I know Midas Touch has some great shows, Brian Tyler Cohen. There's some really amazing people out there on YouTube, on independent streaming platforms that allow them to kind of reach maybe even a bigger audience than those cable news outlets. So let's hope that Fox News and other cable outlets can get their things together. But I think that the future of news is going to look much different from what it once did. Let's see. From Craig and Olympia, Washington, Donald is compromised and a big loser in 2020. Should we be afraid of him or hope we get to shut down his brand for good in 2024? It's a great question. I'm assuming you're talking about Donald Trump. He is compromised. He is a big loser. Yesterday he was on his Truth social media platform, and he literally went as far to say as, he basically was saying that Russia isn't the biggest threat to the world right now. I mean, he is such a traitor. He is compromised. He is a big loser. He is delusional. He is a liar. I think that we still shouldn't write him off though in 2024. Hopefully he gets indicted, and hopefully he gets indicted. And part of the penalty is that he can't ever hold any elected office again. So hopefully that's the consequence. But I think until then, we should treat him as a serious Republican candidate. There are many polls out there that show he's still the front runner by a huge margin. There's no question that if it were today that the Republican primaries were held, he would be the Republican primary nominee. And who knows? I mean, last time Trump got millions more votes than he did in 2016, and it was that took a lot for us to pound his record and to basically say this man is a threat to democracy, but he still got millions of more votes. So I think heading into 2024, we should be afraid of him. We should, I think, really kind of pound the alarm that this is someone who is more dangerous than 2020, more dangerous than 2016. He is still posing a threat to democracy. And I hope that, that will get the message out there. But I just hope that he will get indicted, honestly. I mean, maybe that's the way to shut him out. But even if he gets indicted, my friend Rick Wilson, he's been saying this a lot, where if he gets indicted, he might get even more support. He'll get the Republican base to rally around him, right? It's a classic victimhood, witch hunt. Look at what the federal government is doing to me. None of us should buy into that. This is someone who is a big loser, who has lied. He deserves to be held accountable. And I think the cost of not holding him accountable, not indicting him, is far greater than indicting him and holding him accountable. But as we head into 2024, I don't think we should write him off. I don't think we should treat him as some sort of laughable candidate. He still poses a big threat, and he still could be, my prediction is that he'll still be the Republican nominee unless he gets sent to jail, which I really hope he does. But unless he gets sent to jail, he will be the Republican nominee, and he does have a viable path to the White House in 2024, and we have to treat it as the threat that it is. Otherwise, I think people might get complacent. So, he does have a viable threat, and I think we should, treat him seriously heading into 2024. Maybe one more question. I think let's do this one. Nicole from San Francisco, California. Should there be a TikTok ban, or other are recent initiatives just a xenophobic attack on speech? It's a great question. I think, right now, so basically what's happening is the White House wants another organization to buy TikTok because of security concerns with China. I don't know if this is a xenophobic attack on speech, but I do know any sort of TikTok ban, I think won't be received very kindly or very or very warmly from a younger audience. This is an app that a lot of young people are on, and to ban TikTok from most phones, I understand there are security risks, but at the same time, this is a platform that has really transformed Gen Z and our culture. This is something that has revolutionized the way that politics are distributed, that news is distributed. This is something that I think is really has allowed a lot of people to have fun, to find a platform that they can just spend kind of hours on, for better or for worse. And so I hope that they find a way to resolve this. It seems unlikely that another organization will buy, or another company will buy TikTok. So I hope, China can work out its stuff. I'm by no means a foreign policy expert, but I just hope that TikTok remains, because if it doesn't remain, I can imagine a world in which young people will be very, very disappointed in what the federal government did and what President Biden did. So hopefully TikTok will stay. But I do understand, that the security concerns are real. I know that lawmakers no longer are allowed to have TikTok on their phones. So, whether or not the American people are next to come, we'll see. But let me know what you think. How many of you use TikTok? What do you think of TikTok? Are you concerned about your security? When I'm on TikTok, I frankly am not that concerned about my security. I know that, whenever you're on social media, there's a risk that other people are monitoring you. So this is maybe a little bit different because it's a foreign adversary, but I try to assume the best. But whether or not, it's actually posing a threat, I think only the Biden administration knows, and it's going to have a lot of explaining to do to young people once they live in a world where TikTok does not exist. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of On the Move. I hope you enjoyed this episode. We'll be back next week with more episodes of On the Move. Continue submitting your questions via Twitter or through the comment section. We will be sure to get to them next week when we do our next AMA series. We'll be back next week with amazing guests as well, so you don't want to miss that. We'll be back every day at 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, right here on youtube.com/Politicon. You do not want to miss an episode. We've got some great people who will be joining us, and I'll also be offering my thoughts throughout the week. So don't miss that. Again, 8 a.m. Pacific time, 11 a.m. Eastern time, right here. Be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And feel free to share with anyone in your life who wants to learn more about Gen Z or the news of the day. Any young person in your life, any daughters, any children, any sons in your life, any one who's younger than you, older than you. This is really a show meant for everyone to really kind of get the news of the day. So share with anyone who you think might be interested. And I am grateful for all of you for listening this week and watching this week on the move. We got some great people, Bill Crystal, Mimi Roca, other people who joined us this week were amazing and couldn't be possible without you watching. So thank you everyone for your work, and thank you for still fighting for democracy. It's really important, and we are all a team trying to make our country a better place. So thank you for all you do, and have a great rest of your weekend, and I will see you next Monday.